views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Bronxnet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with one of our very own, the dynamic, the talented, the Cafe con Leche of Bronxnet, our very own Rhina Valentin. Want you to stay connected. Perspective starts now with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime, and of course, we thank you for joining us. As always, you can watch Perspectives here on Bronxnet's Channel 67. We also invite you to stay connected to us on our website at bronxnet.org. And if you're on social media, we invite you to stay connected to us on Bronxnet TV. That's where you can find out all about Bronxnet and its programming, particularly us here on Perspectives, right there at Bronxnet TV. And then if you're trying to reach me on social media personally, my professional page is Daren C. Jaime on Facebook. And then on Twitter and Instagram, I can be reached at DCJaime23. There you can find some information as well as some inspiration in order to brighten up your day. I'm so glad today to be talking with our very special guest as we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Our guest, our very own Rhina Valentin. Well, she is a leading figure in New York City's entertainment industry. She's also a native New Yorker and an Afro-Boricua who's embracing her Black, Indigenous, and European ancestry. She is also a mother and also a writer, a dancer, and we cannot forget a multi-talented director as well. She's also an award-winning artist and performer. She's captured the hearts and minds of so many people discussing adversity with honesty. And since 2006, yes, she has been with me here at Bronxnet as the hostess of the popular Open Friday talk show on Bronxnet TV. You catch me on Wednesday, Thursday. You catch her on Friday all throughout the weekend. And she has been also the recipient of the 25 Bronx Influential Women of 2015 award. And then this year, also in 2021, she was honored as the Creative New Yorker for New York by the Citizens Committee of New York City. A very talented woman in her own right, but she's my sister, my friend, my co-host, and I am so glad to have Rhina Valentin sharing with us. Rhina!
Oh my God.
How are you?
I'm so good, Daren. Oh my gosh, you guys made my day inviting me to be part of Perspectives.
Well, no, listen, I want you to come. I want you to share your perspective. I mean, I think you bring a lot to the table, and it is really, truly an honor to have you. I mean, we do this talking to other people, but sometimes it's a little bit hard talking about ourselves. But really, I'm just glad to have you. And we're celebrating, Hispanic Heritage Month, and wanted to make sure that we could hear your voice and see your face during this time. But for you, what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean for you?
Well, I will say that it's a very busy time of the year for me. However, Hispanic heritage is every day for me. But I do appreciate the fact that it is a time of us just celebrating and finding our similarities within our differences, because again, the highlight is on the Latinx community, not specifically Puerto Rican, not specifically Dominican, not specifically necessarily Colombian or Mexican or Ecuadorian, or I mean, I could just go on, or Venezuelan, or and the idea of us just recognizing each other's differences and honoring our contributions to society, to America, whether we're immigrants, migrants, or natives, such as myself. I'm a native New Yorker. It really is a wonderful time. I want to say a celebration in recognizing each other's just, I keep saying differences in our similarities, but the idea is that we all have our different cultural values, different cultural backgrounds, different belief systems, different aspects to our development that kind of get bundled up, right? And then they call it Hispanic Heritage Month. However, it truly is a time for us to recognize how we're similar but yet different.
Yeah. And for you as an opportunity also, I mean, you're one who's been in the arts and entertainment industry for a long period of time, but I think it also gives a time for us to sit back and highlight some of those accomplishments that are, that occur through arts and entertainment. And I know, you use your platform a lot in also lifting up the Hispanic culture, and not just the Hispanic culture, but letting people know that it's okay to laugh, but also at the same time to really take some matters at heart.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Daren, because it's one of the reasons why I remain proud to serve on this platform, on Bronxnet's platform, as the host of Open Fridays, advocating arts, culture, entertainment, women empowerment, youth development, mental wellness, and all, from the perspective of a Latinx lens, because I'm Latinx, right? So as far as advocating the arts, as an artist myself, I mean, my origins are that of being a thespian and coming from theater, being trained in Meisner. I went to the William Esper studio. I did a master's program in a specific technique. I did the California thing. I auditioned. I've done so many theater productions where it be a performer, a director. I live and breathe the arts. And so when the opportunity presented itself for me to serve as this host that would provide this platform for our artists to be seen and recognized and documented, I really took the role very seriously, in the sense of making sure that we are taking care of their contributions, because especially during the pandemic, I mean, I want to say we provided a really safe space for people to share their stories on a hyper local level. Together with my producer, Lindsay Violet, I want to say we really capture the voice of New York, even though we target the Bronx.
Right. And when we talk about contributions, it's important because, I mean, I think that's what we do. We give people, and I like the way that you say it, hyper focus. We hyper focus on some of the locals that really have made significant contributions that maybe everybody is not so aware of. But for you as an artist, for you as a person that's in the entertainment industry, we know that seeing people of color has not always been that familiar on the big screen, on the stage. But for you coming up, who were some of your inspirations that you really look to in communities of color, in that Latinx community, that really gave you life to say, you know what? They can do this. I can do this too.
So, I mean, within our field, I really don't have too many to choose from. And that's why I've chosen to remain on this route, because I happen to know a few individuals who work in this field on a more commercial level, and their storytelling is limited because it's really geared towards the celebrities and what they're eating and who they're with, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I find entertainment in that, and I'm interested in presenting it from time to time, but I really thrive on just shedding light and discovering and sharing stories that people wouldn't normally have on their screens. And so if I had to choose a person that inspires me, and it's because I absolutely adore everything about her, even from a political standpoint, it's Bette Midler. And she's not even a person of color, but she's just my gal. I just love that lady. I mean, she's multi-talented, but she's also, an activist in her own right. And I also identify as an artivist, we'll say.
Yeah. And so looking at what you do right now, obviously it's intentional, right? The work that you do is intentional. You want to send a message in the work that you do. I think nobody takes the stage and says, listen, we're not trying to send a message across to people. But looking at what you do right now in arts, entertainment, what is the message that you want to send? Because recently, we'll talk about it in the next segment. I know you just came off of being at Lincoln Center, and that's an awesome, accomplishment. And for many people, never ever happens. But for yourself, definitely an opportunity. But talk to me about the message that you're trying to send through your work.
So, because it's Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm invited to serve on a lot of panels, and I always make it my business to identify as a urban Latinx representative, because I am born and raised in New York, and not only do I serve on Bronxnet, Bronxnet's platform, I also have my own company called La Reina del Barrio, which translated to English is Queen of the Ghetto or Queen of the Community, depending on, how you want to interpreted. And part of it is because I feel that the underdogs and the underrepresented individuals, they are a contribution within themselves, especially the ones who are out there dealing with their adversity and overcoming whatever circumstances to transform themselves, their lives, and their community. And so I really love shedding light on those stories.
Yeah. I want to come back and talk after the break a little bit about what exactly you're doing and some of the work that you've done. Make our viewers a little bit more familiar with the queen of the community, Rhina Valentin, our guest here on Perspectives. We are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Taking a quick break, but we'll be back with more show coming up after this. Back here on Perspectives, Daren Jaime here with us. And yes, I want you to know that we have a very special guest, our very own Rhina Valentin, who you also see on Open if you're watching on our Bronxnet channel. She is the host of Open Friday, and she brings us the best of arts and entertainment and culture. But not only that, she's an award-winning artist as well as a performer. And Rhina joins us. And in the first segment, we were talking a little bit about Hispanic heritage. And, you're blazing your own path as someone that, we talked about in the last segment, somebody that you could look up to. And admittedly, you said, listen, it's hard to find somebody to actually look up to because we don't see many faces on stage in entertainment like that. We have a lot on the grand stage sometimes, but really at that next level, not really that much. And you're blazing a trail. And I know that you do a lot of great work, and you have your own creation. And we talked about Lincoln Center, Sancocho, which was actually seen on Lincoln Center. So share with us a little bit about that, because I know it was pandemic related, and talk about the essential workers. So give us a little bit about that.
So, wow, what an amazing gift that was granted to me. I had been harboring the story of this soup. It's called sancocho, and the history of sancocho is that everybody has their own rendition of sancocho, and it may be called something different, but the idea is that you make the soup from whatever's in the refrigerator, right? And so this particular time of 2020, myself residing across the street from the hospital, which I happen to live across the street from Central Park and the hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital, that is. And so I was able to actually witness up close the alternate hospital that was created in the park. And at that particular time, we all didn't know how you can contract it, right? We didn't know, we weren't really clear about whether it was airborne or not. So I was doing everything in my power to sustain both myself and my daughter. And so I was making the soup that had like every healing agent that you can imagine inside of it. And we lived on it for a whole year. I mean, I was making it every week. It was part of like my remedy of whatever it is that we were eating. We had to have this soup. And so when Lincoln Center offered me this amazing opportunity to present, as they noted to me, I've done a few things with Lincoln Center, but to them, they feel because I have access to so many artists, they kind of gave me the floor and said, hey, we have a slot for you, and feel free to do whatever you like with it. And it turned out that it just happened to be during Hispanic Heritage Month. And it turned out to be that I was, my storytelling choice was about a soup. And I brought in a co-writer who actually has a PhD in creative writing. Her name is Ivelisse Rodriguez. So she gave a little bit of the historical aspect of the soup. But the idea really was to bring us all together in relating to this particular time in our lives that we all were going through something. And this was my coping mechanism, was the soup. And so the soup itself is kind of like a mix of everything. And so the cast itself was a mix of everything. So not only was it about the soup, but the story itself was metaphoric of the soup, which I had a tap dancer, a jazz singer, a bachatera, a ballerina, and then there was me who was narrating it almost like in spoken word format. So, and comedic at that. So it was a beautiful story of ancestry, and there was some comedy in it, but there was also some healing that occurred in the presentation of it. And we did it at Damrosch Park in Lincoln Center, 1,000 seats, my friend, outdoors, and guess what? We filled those seats.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask this question because with any stage, there is a certain amount of angst to be on, going on stage. But what was the pressure like for you being at Lincoln Center and really performing there? Was there a little heightened pressure just being at Lincoln Center?
It was a huge, I'll put it to you this way. I am still getting over it. We presented it on September 16th of 2021, and we are now in October, and I am still recovering.
Needing more wine?
Yes, I'm still recovering from it. Not only because of it being Lincoln Center, it being our story, and the audience being our people, and also the representation coming from this place of pride, and also in educating individuals who may not know certain things about our culture. We gave a little bit of background of the soup, and how it has different remedies based on the different cultures or the different countries. Like, Colombia makes it different from the Philippines, from Dominican Republic, from Cuba, from each country has their own rendition of it. But the beauty of it is that it's relatable, and this kind of ties into what I opened up discussing in finding our similarities within our differences.
Yeah. I want to talk for a minute about your work on HBO. Also, you have been featured on Betty La Flaca. And how did that come about? And for those who don't know about Betty La Flaca and finding you there, talk about it.
Oh my gosh, that was a really fun piece. It's a cute short film in which I played this character who had her butt injected. This was when that whole injection of amplifying certain parts of your body, and mine was exaggerated. It was ridiculous. But it was a story about me meeting this real thin woman, and me hooking her up with the person, I guess, the person who was doing the injection. But it was kind of like a bootleg spot where, she went into an apartment, and then she got raided, and lots of fun, and then she ended up with the same size butt, which my butt was exaggerated. They padded my butt. Like, my butt doesn't even need padding, but they did because the the idea was an exaggerated version. It was skit format, kind of, but it was a short film. So it's actually one of my highlights in my career because it was short, sweet, and comical, and I think it spoke volumes about us embracing our body types.
Yeah. We'll take a quick break and come back and talk more with Rhina Valentin. We're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and we've got our very own here sharing with us. Stay with us. We continue the conversation with her as open. Pardon me, not open, because that's where we both usually hang out. But it's so familiar. I see her, I think open, right? But as Perspectives continues, coming up right after this. And welcome back here to Perspectives. Daren Jaime here with you, and so glad to have you with us. We are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and I've got my sister Rhina Valentin on. And Rhina, before the break, I was throwing the commercial, and here I am, and I'm saying, right here on Open. But the fact is that yes, I host Perspectives. We host Open together, and it has become something. And you started 2006. We've been at it for a long time. Yourself, myself, Bob Lee. And in that, we've actually developed this tremendous friendship and, collegiality. But talk a little bit about, just us being able to, what we do on that aspect, because in all that you do, you're also on Open as well.
I know, it's so funny. I was laughing when you were going to break. I was like, because we're open. In
right.
But yes, no, love, I gotta say, it doesn't even feel like 15 years, but yes, it has been 15 years, my friend. And I want to say, and I want to share with everyone, because Perspective was a show that was on way before Open even piloted its first episode. And so the person that I was my go-to in studying format and the way to communicate was you, Daren Jaime, the one and only Daren Jaime, because wow. I love your conversational style. I love that you can go from the formalities into conversational in a way of not making it so rigid. I find that sometimes when you look at these programs, it's very clear that you're just hitting the bullets and it's just a matter of like, oh, that person was sent their questions in advance. And of course, that's a clean execution. I mean, sorry, you guys, if I'm boring you with the technical aspect of our job, but I think it's a craft and not everybody has that ability. And so I say thank you to you, Senor, for being you. And with that, it inspired me to develop myself into becoming a director, which I started training in prior to the pandemic. And here we are. We're still operating virtually. So yeah. I look forward to revisiting that as well.
Oh yeah, can't wait to get back there where we can do it. But I'll tell you what, I mean, honestly, you've helped me too. I mean, because we talk about being rigid, right? And I'm the news guy, so I have to be kind of like front and center news. This platform has given me that could be like that, right? But you've actually helped me too, because that looseness that comes with just being free behind the camera, right? That's what we want to be able to see, and that's what we see more of. So for me, thank you too as well for helping me, because we help each other, and that's exactly what it's all about. But talk to me, because I want to get into this aspect as well. When you talk about the Latinx community, we talk about the African American community. We know that even though we're communities of color, there's this huge disconnect. But you've been able to bridge the gap, and you've always been a friend on both sides, really being able to create that kind of partnership and developing the fact that there's unity there. How much intentionality do you put in that? Because long before there was George Floyd, long before there was this whole, we've got to pay attention to Black Lives Matter and the issues that are being raised about African American oppression and racism and bigotry and all of that. You've always been there doing that. So talk to us a little bit about that.
And that, I think, really, truly, genuinely comes from being a native New Yorker. I wasn't raised to identify individuals or deal based on people's color, their skin or their race or their culture. I wasn't raised to deal with people on that level, and I think that's because I'm born and raised in New York, and it wasn't until I left New York that I even experienced that, even for myself, as a Afro Boricua. Obviously, my melanin identifies the blackness that exists in my DNA, and people would ask me if I was half black when I lived out in California, and at some point I would question, like, why is that so important? And so, based on how much it bothered me, I've always made it my business to provide a platform for us to just be together. I've always said, at the end of the day, we are one race, and that is the human race. And if I have the ability to amplify voices that are underserved or underrepresented, then that is my role. And I really, my intention has solely been to always make sure that we are discovering something new. I learned a very long time ago at a workshop, because I do a lot of spiritual workshops. I do a lot of mental wellness workshops, whether I'm facilitating or somebody else is facilitating. And there was this one statement that was made that always stuck with me. And that was that the richest place in the world is the cemetery. And I was like, the cemeteries? He goes, yes, because that is where all the stories live. And so, taking note of that and taking it into consideration, I said, you know what? Be it through books, be it through whatever way or whatever format you choose to share your story, I think it's important for us to celebrate each other and extract each other's stories with an intentional interest of providing that awareness, right? And so what does that awareness look like? I was asked on one of the panels I just recently served on for Yardstick Media in identity, what does it look like for us to have a voice in a place of office? And my answer was like, well, how about just really getting to know a person, right? And not assuming that they're all from the same place. And instead of pigeonholing, right? It's like, oh, Latinx, right? So it's like Latinx is the same thing with African American. Yeah, but you know what? That's being based on the color of our skin and our racial background and our cultural background versus, well, who are we as human beings? Like, there's a history behind that. There's a story behind that. We all have stories. And then the question becomes is like, how much does it really matter? How much does it matter to each individual?
Right. Well, listen, it matters. And I'm glad that you were able to share your story with us here. We are out of time. Gotta leave it there. Rhina, my girl, thank you so much for being with us, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, but also celebrating you. And thank you for the great work that you continue to do and uplifting our community and giving us some light in the midst of darkness. Thank you, my sis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for choosing me to represent your Hispanic Heritage Month closure, right? Because this is the conclusion of your Hispanic Heritage Month. I love you, Daren Jaime.
Love you too, Rhina. And I'll talk to you soon. Listen, I want to let you know, you've watched Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime. Stay safe. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Share your perspective with somebody else. You just don't know. It might make a difference in somebody else's life. We'll see you soon.
This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the